aḽigʷ, a sčetxŭəd. Good morning, it's good to see you. I'm going to start with singing datatu, altibos, ċċolt, sali, ħlif, bos. Datatu, datatu, shudu-beat-seed, shudu-beat-seed, tsiʔiļs, tsiʔiļs, all those beat to go. Good morning, friends. I'm going to be telling you two stories. One is Little Beaver and the Echo. And the other one is a story that I wrote, and it's called tsiʔiḻ, itabac, and it's kind of a story about my life in a way. First, Little Beaver and the Echo. Aslāslil tia stīstak, aslāslil all ti aļigŭs, tia haʔڵ, haʔĉot, dᶻixŭ, kʷagʷičəd, dxव्ləšucid, kʷagʷičəd. Little Beaver lived all alone by the edge of the big pond. He didn't have any brothers. He didn't have any sisters. Worst of all, he didn't have any friends. One day, sitting by the side of the pond, he began to cry. He cried out loud, and then he cried out louder. Boo-hoo, Lushootseed stuck. haʔڵ, boo-hoo, dģৱləšucid. Oh, ha, 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 Lushootseed stuck. Oh, ha, 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 dģৱləšucid. Suddenly, he heard something very strange on the other side of the pond. Something else was crying, too. The other crying stopped. Little Beaver was alone again. Boo-hoo, he said. Boo-hoo, said the voice on the other side of the pond. Oh, ho, 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 said Little Beaver. Oh, ho, 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 said the voice across the pond. Kʷagʷičəd, aqəxxŭ, haʔڵ, 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 to all dᶻixŭ, kʷagʷičəd, sčətxʷəd, kʷagʷičəd, to all dģৱləšucid. Little Beaver stopped crying. Hello, he called. Hello, said the voice across the pond. Why are you crying? Asked Little Beaver. Why are you crying? Asked the voice across the pond. Little Beaver thought for a moment. I'm lonely, he said. I need a friend. I'm lonely, said the voice across the pond. I need a friend. Lushootseed stuck aslāslil quis asītolbu, all tudi haʔڵ, haʔĉu, tsiʔiļs, stuck. Little Beaver couldn't believe it. On the other side of the pond lived somebody else who was sad and needed a friend. He got right into his boar and set off to find him. Lushootseed dģৱləšucid, haʔڵ, tsiʔiļ, tūħab, stuck. Lushootseed kʷagʷičəd, haʔڵ, haʔڵ, tsiʔiļ, tsiʔiļ, kʷagʷičəd, stuck. It was a big pond. He paddled and paddled, and then he saw a young duck swimming in circles all by himself. I'm looking for someone who needs a friend, Little Beaver. Was it you who was crying? I do need a friend, said Duck, but it wasn't me who was crying. I'll be your friend, said Little Beaver. Come with me. So the duck jumped into the boat. Lushootseed stuck, dģৱləšucid, haʔڵ, kʷagʷičəd, tuħab, stuck. Lushootseed stuck, kʷagʷičəd, haʔڵ, haʔڵ, dģৱləšucid, kʷagʷičəd, Lushootseed stuck, haʔڵ si skak. They paddled and paddled, and then they saw a younger otter sliding up and down the bank all by himself. We're looking for someone who needs a friend, little beaver. Was it you who was crying? I do need a friend, said the otter, but it wasn't me who was crying. We'll be your friend, said little beaver, and the duck, come with us. So the otter jumped into the boat. Tulalip Lushootseed Department, haʔڵ kʷagʷičəd, dᶻixŭ, tis utsuti alaşak, kʷagʷičəd haʔڵ kwi atsa thluad sayaya kʷagʷičəd utsuti bok si skak haʔڵ sgʷəlub tiʔiЛ. They paddled and paddled, and then they saw a young turtle sunning himself all alone on the rock. We're looking for someone who needs a friend, said little beaver. I do need a friend, said turtle, but it wasn't me who was crying. We'll be your friend, said little beaver, and the duck and the otter, come with us. Tulalip Lushootseed haʔڵ si sčətxŭəd all utsuti ulud kʷagʷičəd ohab la bok la skak la alaşak awa. So the turtle jumped into the boat, and they paddled and paddled until they came to the end of the pond. Here lived the wise old beaver in a mud house, all alone. Little beaver told him how he had paddled around the pond to find out who was crying. It wasn't the duck, he said. It wasn't the otter, he said. It wasn't the turtle. Who was it? Utsuti sapas tidaha tiʔiЛ aslātlio dᶻixŭ ati haʔĉo bilaf chaf ushab aħab ubilaf chaf ashill. It was Echo, said the wise old beaver. Where does he live? Asked little beaver. On the other side of the pond, said the wise old beaver. No matter where you are, the Echo always lives across from the pond from you. Why is he crying? Said little beaver. When you are sad, the Echo is sad, said the wise old beaver. When you are happy, the Echo is happy too. Utsuti kʷagʷičəd tuharad all atsa kʷagʷičəd dīl. But how can I find him and be his friend? Asked little beaver. He doesn't have any friends, and neither do I. Atsa tad sayaya utsuti bok all atsa ukwiyad ti skak all atsa kwagʷičəd ukwiyad ti alaşak. Except for me, said duck. And me, said the otter. And me, said the turtle. dxʷləšucid ashill utsuti stīstak ka ti siayayayas ukwiyad stīstak ka haʔڵ siayayayas haʔڵ ulud ka haʔڵ siayayayas dᶻixŭ. Little beaver looked surprised. Yes, he said, I have lots of friends now. And he was so happy that he said it again very loudly. I have lots of friends now. From across the pond, the voice answered him. I have lots of friends now. Tulalip siayayas, siayaya, siayaya, kʷagʷičəd siayaya, sčətxŭəd siayaya, sgʷəlub, haʔڵ sgʷəlub, tual dᶻixŭ. You see, said the wise old beaver, when you're happy, the echo is happy. When you have friends, he has friends too. Hooray, shouted the little beaver and the duck and the otter and the turtle all together, and the echo shouted back to them, hooray! Deep voice. That's the end. So do we all know who the echo was? I think we do. If you ever stand in the front of Tella, you'll hear the echo. So this is a story I wrote about Baby Frog and Daddy Owl. And this is kind of a story about me and my dad, in a way. But I've told it in a little bit different and used different characters. So Baby Frog is Wheat Willis, and Daddy Owl is Bubba Tokulus. All tooty too talk. Excuse me. All tooty too hawk us hot ooh ah see Wheat Willis. E.T. Bubba Tokulus. Hoi aḽigვის U.T. Bubba Tokulus. Utsu walk. Wo a squat see Wheat Willis. Hoi wo hoi kʷagვის sqūs off. See Wheat Willis. All T a squats. See a Wheat Willis. Ulu squat. See sqūs. Hoi a slathlilaf. See Wheat Willis. A scope. T Bubba's Tokulus. Hoi kʷagვის yas. Hoi kʷagვის as ashuds. Hoi all a squats see Wheat Willis. Ulu T Bubba Tokulus. To all as Jacob tsiʔiļ kaya hakpayats. Yahe all T as squats. To all chuf as harab tsiʔiļ Wheat Willis. Shwalak. Hoi uhiyu tub, hoi tabu iti bakakbu. A long time ago, there was Baby Tree Frog and Daddy Owl. So Daddy Owl and Frog were married, and Baby Tree Frog was born. And so Baby Tree Frog did not have a mom anymore, and at Baby Tree Frog's birth, her mom left. So now Baby Tree Frog lives with her Daddy Owl. She has no friends, she has no family. So at Baby Tree Frog's birth, Daddy Owl moved to this lonely grandma cedar tree. But because at her birth, this Baby Tree Frog would constantly cry, ribbit, 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 ribbit. So they were sent away, so everyone was able to sleep again. Sorry. E.T. Bubba Tokulus, all see Wheat Willis. To all Tulasu Yayu see Wheat Willis. To itabac duff wheat. To la as heath T Bubba Tokulus. Tas as haʔļ aʔxŭ T biats. Hoi hoil see Wheat Willis. T haʔ doof see wheat. Die azud guada ulus. To sčətxվəd tas as hilbid T Bubba Tokulus. And so Daddy Owl was never easy on Baby Tree Frog. Baby Tree Frog was constantly working. She was the best hunter, but Daddy Owl was never happy. He wanted more meat, so Baby Tree Frog became the greatest hunter. She was very hard working, but Daddy Owl was never satisfied. Huela as he T Bubba Tokulus. To latsu yayu see Wheat Willis. To itabac tsiʔiļ duff dḥab. Tof tas as haʔļ aʔxŭ sulad. Hue sčətxվəd tas hilbid. Daddy Owl was not happy. Baby Tree Frog continued working. She was the best fisherman. But Daddy Owl wanted more salmon. He was never satisfied. Huela as he T Bubba Tokulus. To latsu yayu see Wheat Willis. To itabac duff squalad. Tof tas haʔļ aʔxŭ tsiʔiļ bead. Hue sčətxվəd tas hilbid. Daddy Owl was not happy. Baby Tree Frog continued working. She was the best weaver, but he wanted more baskets. He was never satisfied. Hwe tula as heath at ti baba tokulus tulatsu yayu si wheatwillies tula heath tsiʔiļ duff payak tof tas as haktu əqxŭ elbin hwe sak tas heathbin. Daddy Owl was not happy. Baby Tree Frog continued working hard. She was the best carver, but he wanted more canoes. He was never ever satisfied. All tchos lachel u kwalitut si wheatwillies at si kaya haʔڵs u yatsubtu as haʔڵwsd ka sčətxｗəd si tad yolab chafwa u uide. Sorry. Td ibat chafwa akatwa asa die as haʔڵwsd u lachdu si wheatwillies at ti kwalitut. One night, Baby Tree Frog dreamt of Grandma Cedar Tree. She told her, I am very lonely. Go to the marsh of your ancestors and find my grandson. Bring him to me because I am so very lonely. Baby Tree Frog remembered her dream. Altias lachel utub si wheatwillies at ti baba tokulus ti kwalituts utsut ti baba tokulus chalak chuf ti ad kwalitut hoi uk'a kwaliutsi tula yolabs. That next day, Baby Tree Frog told Daddy Owl her dream. Daddy Owl said, go follow your dream. So she went to the marsh of her ancestors. Alti uslachil u idu ti ashads u idu ti siayas u idu at si ibats si kaya haʔڵs die tas ti si wheatwillies. When she arrived, she found her family. She found her friends. She even found Grandma Cedar Tree's grandson. Baby Tree Frog was very happy. Utsut si wheatwillies sgʷābac chalak tual si kaya haʔڵs u chalaks tutlachil all si kaya haʔڵs tas heath gwal tas heath ti baba tokulus u kwolod at si wheatwillies utsut ti baba tokulus u hwit chuf u dḥwləšucid chufwa u kwalad chufwa u payak chufwa buckiduptwa bukabu dḥwləšucid. Baby Tree Frog said, you folks, come with me to Grandma Cedar Tree. They followed her. They arrived at Grandma Cedar Tree. They were all happy, and even Daddy Owl was happy. He hugged Baby Tree Frog. Daddy Owl said, you hunted, you fished, you wove, and you carved everything for everyone to enjoy. That is the end. dxWS. Well, thank you for listening to my stories. Boy.
It's on. Datatu Oceana Alday Quinail Chad Chadar Stahovs to Alti dxWləb Uyayus Chad Alti Betty J. Taylor. Good morning, my name is Oceana Alday. I am Quinail and I am Snohomish from Tulalip. I work down at Tella. So the first story I will be telling is from Adatsu, Higgin Sam, sčətxվəd, tsiʔiļ, apəd, and it is translated by one of our elders, David Spencer Sr. Hi, alti at siahob, at tiʔiļ, sčətxվəd, tsiʔiļ, apəd, tias sčətxվəd, go hot u ibibash, go tsiʔiļ, apəd, go zagwa ulus. So, here's the legend of Bear and Ant. The bear was constantly wanders about and he walks around but Ant's a hard-working person. You see little apəd right there on his buxid, on his nose. haʔڵ chad tiʔiș kʷagʷičəd tiʔiș sčətxվəd to all tiʔiș all alls tiʔiļ all alls dᶻixws all tipadas kʷagŭiļ tiʔiļ sčətxվəd. So now I'll tell the legend of Bear. That bear, he comes out of this house, and the house he stays during all of winter. That's where Bear emerges from. Hoi ibibashaf kʷagŭičəd stab kʷagვის aləģ. And then he starts to wander around. He's looking around because he needs to hunt for something to eat. Gwl aʔxŭ tsiʔiș apəd letsuyaus sgʷəlub letsuyaus uqoad tiʔiș kʷagŭičəd aləģ olgwa stab tiʔiș stab kვის uaid letsuqoad tiʔiș aləģ olgwa gwl aḻild olgwa lludaf as kwi stab llus aləģ olgwa. And then there is that ant. She's always working, and she works super hard. She gathers something whenever she can find. She continues to gather their food, and then she puts some away so there will always be food for them to eat. aʔxŭ tiʔiș haʔڵ letsu ibibash haʔڵ letsu itlladab at sgwl at tiʔiș. And then there's this bear. All he ever does is walk around continuously. He just nibbles berries off the bushes as they ripen. gwl tiʔiș sčətxվəd potav asbash haʔڵ əqxŭ gwl paquin haʔڵ itabac. And then that's Bear. That's Bear. He eats continuously until he becomes full. He just stuffs himself down, and then he goes and lies down with his bottom up in the air, and then that's how he usually falls asleep. Hoi haʔڵ apəd tiʔiș sčətxվəd haʔڵ olgwa hoi qtabac tiʔiļ bkʷagŭiu sgws olgwa qtabac tiʔiļ. And then Ant and Bear, they would argue. And now they argued, and then now all the people gathered around to hear them argue. They gathered, and all the leaders gathered there for a meeting. Hoi gwadagwada olgwa gwagwatas kwi Tulalip Lushootseed apəd gwachalas kwi chats hoi sutaf llawhwyl gwl balachil llachil gwl balachil llachil gwl balachil llachil gwl balachil. And then they were discussing which one should be the winner. Ant asked what she has on her mind, and then she says, I want night and day, I want night and day, I want night and day, I want night and day. Gwl ystal sčətxվəd haʔڵ paquin tiʔiș sčətxվəd haʔڵ pusab gwl dᶻixŭ dxwl llwbalachil. And so now what was Bear doing? He only wishes to lie there with his bottom up in the air, and he would just raise his head and he would say, year of darkness, and then it will become day again. Because Bear wants to sleep for a really long night. For a whole year between each day. dʻiļ usu at tiʔiļ sčətxୱəd hoi əqxŭ haʔڵ u badzubalik tsiʔiļ at apəd potaf ubad at ahab tsiʔiļ at apəd hol oba pusab tia sčətxwəd wo ubatsu dxｗləd wo llwbəlachel dʻiļ usu at tia sčətxwəd. So that's the only thing Bear would say. He was so lazy and just kept on dancing. Ant just kept on dancing. Ant would tighten her belt even more, and Bear would just raise his head again. He says, "You're the darkness, and it will be day again." And that's what Bear would say. Hi, potaf ubat ili tsiat at apel choaf ubat ili otaf ubat at ahab haʔڵ ubat ili llachel gwolbalachel llachel gwolabachel llachel gwolabachel llachel gwolbalachel. And then the ant starts to sing again. She continues as she tightens her belt, and she continues to sing more. And she says, night and day, night and day, night and day, night and day. Hi to abit tabaf a tiïl chacha a quidil stabs kʷagʷičəd wo aʔxŭ tia sčətxwəd potap as ball pot uba itu tiïl af Paquin. And the creator heard and granted what she wanted, and then there was Bear. He is still full of food, and he continues to sleep with his bottom up in the air. Tulalip Lushootseed at apəd potaf əqxŭ at apəd gwol Tulalip hoi ulus kʷagʷičəd yayus haʔڵ at apəd as txiʔiļ. And then Ant had won, and she was about to squeeze in two. She's about to squeeze in two from cinching her belt too much before she wins. And she won because she was a hard worker, and she was constantly working. And she won because she was a hard worker. And then Ant begins to dance. She's happy, and she continues to sing her song. dxWləšucid. That's the end. So that's the first story. And the second one I'm going to tell. Tiatma shares it with us, and it's actually one of my favorite stories, and because I can get a little bossy, and it's kind of a nice reminder for myself more than anything, so that's probably why it's like one of my favorite stories. But it's aḽigws, and it's the story of rock cod. A sláthleil tiïl aḽigws I tiʔiļ I kʷawk altil tabu alturi tuha tiïl a sláthleils alti. Rock cod was living in there with all the other kinds of sea people. A long time ago, he lived there when he was down in the ocean. He kudus hili tiïl aḽigws tsiʔiļ hili to Paquin. And so rock cod, he was very bossy, and he was always giving orders to everyone. And so you see Yobach right here. He would tell Yobach, Yobach, Tulalip tiʔiļ sadiļ stolak dᶻixŭ at tiʔiļ badbadat. And he says, hey, King Salmon, you're going to go to this particular river, and that's where your children would be born. Now we have Busk. He sees Busk, and he says, Busk, hey, well, aʔxŭ turi at llulotleil tsiʔiļ badbadat. And he says, hey, you crab, go over there to all the way to those rocks, and your kids, they will go right under the rocks. Now we have Oi. He looks up Oi, and he says, Oi, Chas istab chaf alquis altiguistab altachwolch. He says, hey, you flounder, Stay deep down in the river and stay in the sand beneath the salt water. Now we have tūwhālū. He looks at the tūwhālū and he says, dgwi tūwhālū, haʔڵ chaf twalti up gwa bat padaf a tiʔiļ beebs chub tiʔiļ tatika llw chaf tsiʔxświd aʔxw. He says, hey, you gray whale, go to the deep water. If you are bothered by little mink and tatika, go and beat yourself. Hili tub a tiïl aḽigws ti kʷagświčəd kʷagვის haʔڵ utsu ti kʷagwičəd llwgwagwičəd tūwhālū dxwləšucid utsu tiʔiļ awa aḽigws tsiʔiļ hili ti kʷagwičəd hoi dxwləb hili tiʔiļ sčətxვის. So everybody, they were getting sick of rock cod because he was ordering them around. And finally they all said, let's get together and we're going to discuss it. Gray whale will be our main speaker. And he said, that rock cod, he's always giving everybody orders. How about we give him orders for a change? Go tiïl man hoi haʔڵs utsus llwgwagwičəd tiïl aḽigws gwa o llw haʔڵ tabchad a tiʔiļ tabu haʔwchad stobs llw hili chad ti kʷagwičəd hoi gwa llwgwagwičəd oba ti kʷagwičəd gwa as ista as tsiʔiļ. And then there was the littlest one. He's right here, and his name was Barnacle. Barnacle spoke up and he said, let's invite rock cod to a gathering. He will think, oh, I'm being honored by the people because I'm such an important person who tells everybody what to do. But no, we will reprimand him. Everyone agreed that is the way how they would handle the situation. Alti datatu llchisab tiïl aḽigws a ti tūwhālū iti tsiʔiļ tsutub ugwihitsichal llwgwt ti kʷagwičəd hoi ugwihitsichal of sutub tiïl aḽigws llwgwt tiïl a tiïl tabu twalkwi gwas haʔڵs die as hill. And the next morning, Gray Whale and Barnacle, they went to go see rock cod. They told him, hey, we're inviting you. Everyone is gathering, so we're inviting you. Rock cod thought. He thought, oh, these people are getting together to honor me. He was very happy. O quia subduf dachduf a quibabos, kistub tiïl aḽigws gol sutub, kʷagwičəd chaf a kʷagwičəd, hili chaf ti kʷagwičəd, hoi kʷagვის olgwat, oba ti kʷagwičəd die as kʷagვის. And so the four witnesses, they were called upon. They told rock cod, or they stood rock cod up and told him, everyone's tired of you. You're always ordering people around and they are tired of it. Everybody agreed that they were really tired of it. Hoi hili tub tiïl aḽigws a tiʔiļ tabu tia dia at tadaf a twalkwi hoi albadaf aidu a tiïl aḽigws at twal tia af sgwl. And then rock cod was given orders by the people. This rock right here is where you'll be forever. And the rocks are still the place where rock cod can be found even to this day. dxWləs yahoptub tia ti tiatmas. That is the end. Ray Moses tells the story. Then I have one more quick story. So Talk to Blue shares the story with us by Hilbert. This is tiïl spəčuʔs, her first basket, pədyəhubtxৱ at si zagwa baditza, and Michelle Balaget this is retold by Michelle Balaguet. Okay. So Alturi tu haʔڵ tasquadil si slashdai guadaguap altich payats kʷagვის sciis. And so a long time ago, a little girl, she was sitting right under the cedar tree, and she didn't have any friends. Suitsub atich payats lluhoyu chafti spəčuʔs utsutsi slashdai kʷagვის tawat suitsub atich payats zeil lluquadad chafti tꞌaʔxw. And then the cedar tree told her, you are going to make a cedar root basket. And little girl says, I don't know how. And then the cedar tree told her, first, you're going to take my roots. And so the girl did as she was told. Lluquadad atsi slashdai tꞌaʔxw. Gwohoyud. And the girl took the cedar roots and she worked and worked on her basket. Suitsub lluquitaf sčətxվəd aḽigŭs. And she was told, now you're going to go to the river and you're going to dip your basket in the water. Boquaf twaltich payats ho meatman tiʔiļ alti spəčuʔs suits tsiʔiļ bahoyaps. And then she returned back to the cedar tree right here. And then there was just only a little bit of water in her basket. The cedar tree said, your work's not tight enough. Do it again. Bahoyatsaf, baquitaf, huilatak, tiʔiļ sciis, bayahoitsaf, baquitaf, bahuilatak sciis, hoi bayahoitsaf, baquitaf. And so she made it again and again. She went to the river. Her work was not tight enough. And again she made it, and then she went back to the river. Again she went back to the river, and again it was not tight enough. So she made it again and went back to the river again. Alti bosash basutsa uqit sčətxվəd aḽigŭs. And then by the fourth time now, she was told, you go down to the river and you dip up some water. Boquaf totiach payat oh dᶻixŭ tad sciis. And then she came back to the cedar tree with the water, with no water leaking. And the cedar tree told her, oh, your basket's really good now. Llu abalig chaf tsiʔiș altadaf aslashil dxव्ləšucid as Easter tiʔiļ. And she says, you will present it to the oldest lady where you live, and that's why we still do this to this day. Dᶻixŭ. That's the end. Okay, that's all my stories. Wait.
Haʔڵ Nik-ko-te St Tulalip Lushootseed Department, dxWləbit, Mamie Hood Tud Scoy, Keith Abraham Senior Tud Bod, Rachel Hood Seed Kaya Al Hood Senior Tud Sapet, Dus aḽigŭs aڵigŭs Total Middle School. Good afternoon, my name is Nik-ko-te St. My mom was Mamie Hood, my dad was Keith Abraham Sr., my grandma is Rachel Hood, and my grandpa was Al Hood Sr. I am from Tulalip, but I am Snohomish and Lummi, and I'm a teacher at Total Middle School. dᶻixŭ tiʔiļ dxwiedzid kʷagʷičəd sgʷəlub. The stories I'm going to tell are Bully Elk and Mother Grouse. Tulalip Lushootseed Department. These stories come from my uncle Tiʔiș. The first one I'm going to tell is kʷagwičəd. It's about elk. Dʻxwləšucid tiʔiļ kʷagwičəd. Dʻxwləšucid kʷagwičəd. haʔڵ. Elk was a bully elk. He is a great big animal. One time they came across sčətxվəd. They came across Brown Bear. He was all beat up, and the people said, "Gwa-kwi-u-hoyud, who did this to you?" Sčətxվəd said, "kʷagwičəd did it. He took me and he beat me up with his antlers." And all of the animals got together, and sq̓wat, cougar, says, "kʷagwičəd, I'll help you. I'll take care of kʷagwičəd." He got up in a tree and waited for kʷagwičəd to come along, and he jumped onto kʷagwičəd. But he didn't see him he seen him in time, and he hooked him with his antlers, and he threw him all around and then beat him up and put him in the brush. Next came brother wolves. They said, "kʷagwičəd, we'll help you." So they all got together and they waited for kʷagwičəd. They were going to ambush him. Finally, as they were waiting, here comes kʷagwičəd. Just as they jumped out to ambush kʷagwičəd, he took them all and threw them all around with his antlers and just threw them in the brush. Pretty soon, tsiʔiḻ, Chickadee, the little snowbird, came and says, "Gŵlaldchef tiʔiļ, kʷagwičəd. You better stop beating up all my friends. You leave them alone or I'm going to take care of you." Utsuti kʷagwičəd, "Oh ho ho, a little guy like you? What are you going to do?" So Chickadee says again, "You better leave him alone." And kʷagwičəd says, "Hwejejed ħluħojujed tiʔiļ dxव्ləd." He says, "No way, I'll do as I please." Pretty soon, little tsiʔiḻ flew up into his bxव्d, into his nose. He flew around in circles, all around in his bxव्d. Kʷagwičəd couldn't do anything with him. Hwitala. He fell over into the brush, and he kicked because he couldn't grab tsiʔiļ. Ħluħwatchaf'u atitsiaya. Are you going to leave my friends alone? Said Chickadee. Kʷagwičəd says, "Hwejejed, no way." So he took off into his other nostril and he kept flying around, buzzing around. Kʷagwičəd was so tired, a haʔڵ. He was thrashing around in the bush and he couldn't get a hold of tsiʔiļ. So finally he gave up. DᶻixWalicwed, kʷagwičəd bapəd, tad atiʔiļ. He said, "I give up. I'll never bother your people again." dxWlehuit tsiʔiļ quad sufsutabid, gwahuias did tiʔiad shabad. Abal as meatman. The moral to this story is you never underestimate your enemy, no matter how small they are. This next story is about Mother Grouse. One time, obsbadat sgʷəlub əqxŭ. Mother Grouse had a bunch of children, little chicks, and she had to go somewhere, so she says, "Sčətxվəd aladlap dᶻixｗ. I want you guys to behave, or something's going to get you." But like some wiltsu do, some children just run around and play all over. And she says, "Sčətxվəd aladlap dᶻixw. You better behave, or something's going to get you." But they just kept running around. Finally, sq̓, Mom left. Along comes Spəu, Coyote. He sees all the wiltsu, all the children running around. He licks his chops. He goes down the line and eats every last one of them. sgʷəlub comes home, and she sees what had happened. She takes off flying into the air, and she dives down at Spəu, and he says, "Hway, achada." He says, "Don't." And she takes off again, and he says, "Hway, achada, what's wrong with her?" He turns around with feathers hanging out of his mouth. sgʷəlub takes off and dives again, and he says, "Hway, achada!" About that time, uhuitel, he falls down a great big cliff, all tooted way down there. Along comes sčətxվəd, Brother Wolf. He looks down and sees spəčuʔs, and he says, "Stop kʷagʷičəd, all dxwuləb. What are you doing down there?" Spəčuʔs looks up and says, "Oh, gwas ituad. I must have been sleeping. Us itu, you must have been sleeping. You must have been down there for a long time. Besides, you don't smell very good. You look like you've been down here for a long time." Ushabitub tiʔiļ spəčuʔs at nik-ko-te. So sčətxվəd feels sorry for spəčuʔs. He makes his way down the cliff. He gets down to the bottom of the cliff and says, "Achada, għuħwit at kwi-hats, xwalchaf us xwalwat, al dᶻixŭ." He says, "Boy, you must have fallen a long ways. Look at you, you're just scattered all over here." So he gets busy and starts putting spəčuʔs back together. Spəčuʔs used to be a great big animal, but after putting him back together, he's the size that he is now. So sčətxվəd says his magic words and steps over him 3 times, and spəčuʔs gets up. The moral to this story is you children better listen, or something will get you. Hasn't your mother ever told you to beware of strangers? dᶻixŭ, that's the end. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, a little bit. What was that story that Angel told